If it wasn't for China, they would have died. They would have all gone bankrupt. So it was Chinese demand for German exports that kept Germany alive. Well, allow me firstly to say that there is no doubt in my mind that Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, is an embarrassment for us Europeans. She doesn't speak for us. You have to remember, we never elected her. She was imposed on us by Chancellor Merkel and President Macron. Europe is not a democracy, whatever they may be telling the people of China. It's less of a democracy than China is. Think about it, two men and two women got together in a room and they decided that Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, a failed defense minister from Germany, the chancellor of Germany at the time didn't want to have in Berlin around her. She got rid of her and sent her to Brussels to be the president of the European Commission. And, when Ursula von der Leyen goes, for instance, to Israel and stands in front of the tanks of the IDF, of the Israeli army, cheerleading them just before they enter Gaza to kill tens of thousands of children, that just goes to show what I was saying to you, that she's an embarrassment to Europeans. Another point that I need to raise is that, you mentioned her trip to China and the de-risking narrative. That wasn't even hers. It didn't come from Europe. This came from Washington. It was the American instruction to Ursula von der Leyen that, you know what, you will need essentially to break your trading bonds with China. This was an instruction that came from the United States. You said something that I don't agree with. You said that the European right didn't want trade relations with China. That's not true. If you talk to any industrialist in China, they really want trade relations. Actually, not only do they only want trade relations with China, their survival depends on trade relations with China. They're nothing short of their economic life depends on Chinese trade. If you think of going back to 2008, when the American economy collapsed, and simultaneously the periphery of the European Union, countries like mine, Greece, Italy, they went all bankrupt. Suddenly, German industry had no one to sell their products to. If it wasn't for China, they would have died. They would have all gone bankrupt. So it was Chinese demand for German exports that kept Germany alive. And, German industrialists everywhere, even if they're very right-wing, know that, appreciate that. But they got their marching orders from Washington, cut trade with China. Ursula von der Leyen knows this. She knows that it is impossible for Europe to maintain its economic energy and to move towards the green transition, electrification, let's say, of transport, battery technology, without trading with China. She knows that. But she doesn't care, because Ursula von der Leyen, and this is a very controversial statement that I'm going to issue now, but I'm going to make it because I believe strongly that she doesn't work for Europeans, she works for the Americans. She works for the American administration, and she comes to China and tells you that which has been given to her as a briefing from Washington, D.C. And, if Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, knows that and dislikes that very, very much. Olaf Scholz is not in agreement with Ursula von der Leyen. Olaf Scholz, remember, he came to China. He brought German businessmen to give you exactly the opposite message, that we do not want to de-risk and to delink from China. We want, and here is the conundrum of Europe. Olaf Scholz is the elected chancellor of Germany, and he has less power than the unelected president of the European Commission, who takes her marching orders from Washington. So should you expect a deterioration? Well, look, it's up to us here in Europe to rise up against Mrs. von der Leyen, who, by the way, is going to be reappointed again because there is a lot of support that she has from Washington, D.C. It's up to us Europeans, activists, politicians, citizens, to stop our European leaders from turning Europe into a colony of the United States, which the United States uses in order to up the ante to intensify the new Cold War between the United States and China. We need an independent Europe. We need a Europe that minds after Europe and the world. Because if we do mind after Europe, then we will de-escalate the new Cold War that the United States is unleashing against China. And this is our job to do here as Europeans. What should the Chinese people expect? You should expect the worst, because Europe is not going in the right direction. You should understand that it's not the European people who are turning our politics against China. It is our rulers. We are not sovereign nations anymore. Here in Greece in 2015, the people of Greece decided to go another way. 62% of the vote was against the standard line, which I am describing now. And what happened was the people were overthrown. So we need international solidarity against very pernicious business interests who are trying very hard to foment the Cold War between East and West, between the West and China, the West and China in particular. We need to stop them from essentially undermining the conditions that would allow humanity to create a better future for itself.
Thank you so much. Talking about saving humanity, I know that are you still banned from Germany for standing up for Palestine?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This is the state of affairs in Europe. Very briefly for you to know, I have taken the German government to the courts in Germany because they won't tell me. I was told verbally, not me personally, my comrades, my collaborators in Germany were told that I was banned by the police in Berlin, by a high-ranking police officer. And I was told that not only was I banned, I would be arrested if I entered Germany, but also that they would be arrested if they hosted me over video link, as you and I are speaking now, that if any German spoke to me in a public meeting over video link, they would be arrested. Now, this is like a statement by the German government, the German police, that totalitarianism is here and it is ruling over Europe. And so there is the small, tiny detail that supposedly we live in the European Union where there is freedom of movement, but my freedom of movement has been revoked by the German police, verbally. So my lawyer wrote to the government, to the Ministry of the Interior, and asked for details, and asked 3 very important questions, simple questions. Which authority banned me? When and why? And what was the rationale? And we got a letter a day later saying that they will answer us within 48 hours in writing. In 48 hours, we got a letter saying, dear Mr. Varoufakis, we are not going to answer your questions because that would go against national security. So I'm taking them to court in order to ascertain my right to know if I am still banned, who banned me, and why. But of course, the reason why they are delaying is because they're embarrassed. But imagine if they do this to me, given that I have a high profile. I speak to you, I speak to journalists, BBC, and so on. Imagine if they feel free to do this against me, to violate basic law against me. Imagine what they will do to people who do not have a public platform, who are not well known, who do not have my capacity to communicate these matters. Europe is becoming a very bleak place. They advocate human rights and the rule of law and do whatever they want, whenever they want, in violation of human rights and the rule of law.
各位，刚才我们看了、听了希腊前财长关于本次欧洲大选右翼大胜，有的人质疑中欧关系因此会变得更暗淡。但希腊前财长则较为乐观，他对冯德莱恩的无情批驳以及痛诉德国的无理打压，让我们看清了德国口口声声说的集权勾当，凡是他自己干的，真是太讽刺了。确实呀，德国禁止这位希腊前财长入境德国，因为德国害怕他的发言，害怕他在公共场合发声，这是不是出乎各位的意料呢？ 接下来我们来看看一些网友的评论。第一条评论，冯德莱恩让欧盟大失所望，在当前这个错综复杂的世界，他是领导欧盟的错误人选，他是美国政权的黄鼠狼。下一条评论，中国人永远不会忘记八国联军造成了中国历史上的100年屈辱，熊市已经醒来，这是无法阻挡的。下一条评论，鉴于中国的近代史，我敢肯定他们总是对欧美抱有最坏的预期。另外，鉴于欧洲和美国的帝国主义和殖民主义，只有对历史完全无知的人才会相信他们欧美所说的一切。下一条评论，乌苏拉·冯德莱恩再次被欧盟领导人提名时，我感到非常失望，他不代表欧盟。下一条评论，注意安全啊，财长先生，为了阻止你说出真相，他们会不择手段。下一条评论，降低与中国的风险，美国和欧洲更依赖中国，而不是反过来。下一条评论，德国过去几年的经济状况令人悲痛，但这就是当选领导人未能将本国利益放在首位的后果。下一条评论，谢谢你说出了整个局势的真相，欧洲需要为欧洲，而不是华盛顿特区工作的政治家。下一条评论，如果美国没有占领欧洲各国的军事基地，我想情况会大不一样。下一条评论，为了获得美国对其连任的支持，乌苏拉·冯德莱恩在未取得欧盟所有成员国共识的情况下，对中国电动汽车征收关税。这场贸易战正中美国下怀，以牺牲欧美国家利益为代价，使其成为主要的政治受益者。下一条评论，先生，您是传播真理和开启明智的英雄。下一条评论，乌苏拉是美国的欧洲总督。下一条评论，无论是改革还是革命，欧洲的未来最终都掌握在欧洲人民的手中，他们需要同时面对美帝国主义和自己的殖民历史。下条评论，天哪，德国又回到了集权国家的状态。下条评论，我记得在全球金融危机期间为宝马汽车公司工作时，他们在中国的很多高管都说，幸亏有中国市场，否则我们就完蛋了。下条评论，有一点可以肯定，匈牙利未来将成为西欧国家羡慕的对象。下条评论，那么为什么欧洲人不站出来为自己人民的福祉而斗争呢？下条评论，我认为南朝鲜应该降低与美国的风险，但如果这样的话，可能会发生政权更迭。下条评论，我完全同意您的观点，冯德莱恩女士是为美国工作的，但是上帝派卡拉斯女士来，欧盟有救了。德国之士说明，卡拉斯将成为新的欧盟外交事务高级代表，但她是否能拯救欧盟，只有上帝知道。下条评论，仗义直言的人太棒了。下条评论，欧盟就是个耻辱。下条评论，中国之所以能够快速进步，是因为他们的教育体系优先发展科学技术，而不是那些无用的专业。下条评论，但欧洲人民并没有听到。下条评论，对所有国家来说，正确的做法是降低与美国和盎格鲁撒克逊兄弟会的风险。好的，各位，今天的节目就到这里。大家对德国如此害怕希腊前财长而禁止他入境德国有何看法呢？